If your son or daughter told you, "Don't contact me again," the pain is not just in those words. The real pain begins after. It begins in the quiet kitchen, in the untouched chair at dinner, in the birthdays you count alone, in the way your hand still reaches for the phone before your mind remembers the truth. And if you are living in that silence right now, I want to tell you something gently, but very clearly. Do not spend the rest of your life trying to force a door that has been shut. The harder you push, the smaller you become in your own eyes. And the strange thing is, the very moment you stop begging for your place in their life may be the moment your dignity comes back to you. This is where Buddhist wisdom becomes more than an idea. It becomes medicine. Because Buddhism does not teach us how to control other people. It teaches us how to drowning in what we cannot control. And when a child walks away, that lesson becomes painfully real. You cannot command love. You cannot schedule reconciliation. You cannot argue someone back into your arms. But you can decide what kind of heart you will live with from this day forward. You can decide whether this wound will turn you bitter, desperate, and hollow, or whether it will turn you deeper, calmer, and impossible to forget. Most parents make the same mistake after estrangement. They think one more message will fix it. One more explanation. One more apology. One more holiday card. One more call from a relative. One more attempt to make the child remember everything they were given. But pain does not soften under pressure. Usually it hardens. When someone says, "Do not contact me again," the mind hears a challenge. It says, "No, I must make them understand me." But the wiser response is much harder. It is to step back, not because you do not care, but because you finally understand that love without respect becomes pursuit, and pursuit does not heal what is broken. The Buddha spoke often about clinging. People hear that word and think it means not loving. That is not true. Clinging is not love. Clinging is fear wearing the mask of love. It is the hand that grips because it cannot bear uncertainty. It is the heart that says, if I lose this person, I lose myself. That is why estrangement feels like death to many parents. It is not only the loss of a relationship, it is the collapse of an identity. You were mother. You were father. You were needed. You were remembered. Then suddenly, with one sentence, you feel erased. But you are not erased. You are wounded. There is a difference, a deep one. And that difference may save your life. Right now, the mind may be doing what minds do in suffering. It may be building a courtroom inside your head. In that courtroom, you are both the accused and the judge. You replay old years, old dinners, old arguments, things you said too sharply, times you were tired and unavailable, rules you enforced, mistakes you did not know were becoming scars. Then the mind swings the other way and builds another story. After all I did, how could they do this to me? That story hurts too. One story makes you the monster. The other makes you the martyr. Both keep you trapped. Buddhism asks for braver than either story. It asks for clear seeing. Clear seeing says this: perhaps you made mistakes, perhaps serious ones. Perhaps your child also carries pain that has been shaped by their own fears, their own interpretations, their own life, their own wounds, and their own limitations. Human relationships are rarely one clean story with one villain and one innocent victim. Families are made of memory, misunderstanding, silence, expectation, sacrifice, pride, love, and unspoken hurt. When all of that hardens over years, one sentence at the end is never the whole truth. It is only the final sound of a much longer storm. So what do you do now? Not in theory, not in a book, not in some perfect spiritual life. What do you do tonight when the room is quiet and your heart starts reaching for what is no longer there? You begin by refusing to let your whole life kneel before this one loss. That may sound cold at first, but it is actually compassion. Because if you build every day around waiting for one person to return, then you hand them the keys to your inner world. They may not even know they hold them. They may never use them. But still, your peace depends on a sound from the phone, a name in the inbox, a holiday surprise that may never come. That is not love. That is captivity. The Buddha taught that suffering grows when we demand permanence from what is impermanent. Children grow, turn, pull away, marry, change beliefs, change values, rewrite their memories, choose distance, choose closeness, and sometimes disappear into lives we no longer understand. This is not always fair. It is not always right. But it is real. And healing begins when you stop arguing with reality long enough to ask, now that this is true, how shall I live? That question changes everything, because it turns you away from obsession and back toward practice. Your first practice is to stop feeding the scene that broke you. Every estranged parent has one. Maybe it was a text, maybe a slammed door, maybe a family gathering where something finally snapped. Maybe no argument at all, just a cold withdrawal that became permanent. The mind loves to replay that scene because it believes repetition will produce mastery. But repeated pain does not become wisdom by itself. Sometimes it only becomes habit. If you revisit the wound every day, the wound becomes your home. When the memory comes, do not wrestle with it. Do not obey it either. Sit still. Feel your feet on the floor. Take one slow breath and name what is happening. This is sorrow, not this is my life forever. Just this is sorrow, then another breath. This is longing, then another. This is what hurt feels like in the body. Do you see the shift? You are no longer drowning inside the story. You are witnessing the storm as it moves through you. In Buddhism, this simple act matters more than people think. What we can observe clearly begins to loosen its grip. Then comes the harder part. You must let grief be real without turning it into your identity. There is a difference between saying, "My child is gone from my life and I am heartbroken," and saying, "I am nothing now." The first is grief. The second is self-destruction. Grief is honest. Self-destruction is grief plus hopelessness plus repetition. One can be held. The other slowly eats the future. Many older parents do not notice when this shift happens. They stop talking about books, gardens, old friends, walks, music, faith, or anything alive. Every conversation becomes about the estrangement. Every morning begins with the same thought. Every evening ends in the same ache. Their whole identity shrinks around the wound. And once that happens, even if reconciliation comes, they are no longer standing in the same place emotionally. They have disappeared from their own life. Please do not do that to yourself. Cry when you need to cry. Speak their name when you need to. Sit with the emptiness honestly. But do not build an altar to your suffering and worship every day. Your pain is part of your life. It is not the whole of your life. And now we come to something many parents resist. You may never get the full explanation you want. That is one of the hardest truths in estrangement. The mind keeps saying, if I could just know exactly why, I could finally rest. But often the answer you want does not exist in one clean sentence. Or it exists in their heart and they will not share it. Or what they would say would not satisfy you anyway, because pain rarely becomes neat when explained. Sometimes the hunger to understand becomes its own addiction. It gives the mind something to chase, and while the mind is chasing, it never has to grieve fully. Buddhist teaching reminds us that not every knot opens by pulling harder. Some knots loosen only when the hand becomes still. So if you have been asking why for months or years, consider this possibility. The question may no longer be serving you. It may be keeping the wound fresh. It may be promising closure while quietly preventing it. You do not need a perfect explanation to begin living again. You also do not need to declare yourself innocent in order to offer yourself mercy. That may be the most difficult sentence in this whole talk. Some parents believe self-forgiveness is a trick, a weakness, a refusal to face the truth. It is not. Self-forgiveness is what allows honest regret without lifelong self-hatred. Maybe you were controlling. Maybe you were emotionally unavailable. Maybe you were too sharp, too proud, too dismissive, too busy surviving your own burdens to see what your child needed. If that is true, Face it. Face it cleanly. Face it without excuses. But after you face it, do not keep stabbing yourself with the same knife every day for the next 10 years. Guilt that leads to humility can purify. Guilt that becomes self-punishment only makes one more broken person in the world. The Buddha never said that wisdom begins with self-contempt. It begins with awareness. Awareness says, I see where I was blind. Compassion says, and I will not hate myself forever for being human. If regret is needed, let it soften you. Let it make you more truthful, more gentle, more awake. But do not let it convince you that you are beyond dignity. There is another truth here, and it may sting. If you want your child to ever look back and feel the weight of what they have done, you will not achieve that by collapsing. You will not achieve it by sending guilty messages, dramatic updates, or subtle punishments. People do not regret leaving chaos when the chaos keeps calling them. But they do sometimes feel something powerful when they realize the person they dismissed did not become petty, cruel, manipulative, or desperate. They became calm. They became clear. They became grounded. They became someone whose silence carries dignity, not demand. That is what I mean by making them regret it. Not revenge. Not emotional theater. Not cold games. I mean becoming so inwardly steady that if your child ever turns around, they do not find a person frozen in anger. They find a human being who suffered, grew, and chose peace over poison. That kind of presence speaks louder than pursuit ever could. So yes, respect the boundary. Truly respect it. If they said not to contact them, then stop contacting them. Not for a week. Not until Christmas. Stop. Do not use relatives as messengers. Do not monitor their life through other people. Do not send a stream of updates disguised as concern. This is not weakness. It is discipline. It is the discipline of not making your pain someone else's prison. You cannot demand closeness while ignoring the very boundary that was spoken. If reconciliation is ever to have clean ground beneath it, that ground must include respect. And once you step back, something unexpected happens. At first, the silence gets louder. Then, after a while, you begin to hear yourself again. You hear the parts of you that were buried under the role of parent. You hear your own loneliness, yes, but also your own unfinished life. You notice that morning light still falls through the window. Tea still has warmth. Music still reaches places words cannot. A neighbor still smiles. A friend still needs a call. The world has not ended, even though one chapter shattered. This matters. Because healing is not an idea. It is built from ordinary acts repeated with sincerity. Make your bed. Go outside. Walk without the phone in your hand. Cook for yourself as if you are feeding someone worthy of care. Return to prayer if you have left it. Return to stillness if you fear it. Read things that widen the heart, not things that keep it burning. Join a community, even if your grief tells you to stay hidden. Sit among other human beings. Let your nervous system remember that life is larger than this one fracture. Many older parents secretly believe that if they start living again, it means they did not truly love their child. That is false. Living is not betrayal. Smiling is not betrayal. Sleeping through the night is not betrayal. Laughing at lunch with a friend is not betrayal. Your love does not become fake because your life becomes bearable. In fact, the healthiest love is the kind that can remain tender without demanding to own the future. This is where loving kindness becomes a profound practice. Not because it will magically bring your child back, and not because spirituality is a trick for getting your way. It is because resentment is heavy, and many people carry it for so long that they forget how tired it has made them. Every day they rehearse the unfairness. Every day they imagine speeches. Every day they relive the insult. But anger, when held too long, begins to shape the face, the voice, the nervous system, and even the story you tell about yourself. It makes you live in permanent reaction. Loving kindness breaks that cycle. Sit quietly for a few minutes each night. Breathe. Bring your child to mind, not as the person who hurt you most recently, but as a whole human being. Flawed, confused, wounded, changing, just as you are. Then say inwardly, slowly, without force, may you be safe. May you be free from suffering. May you find clarity. May you know peace. If that feels impossible, start smaller. I will not poison myself with hatred tonight. That is already a beginning. Then, after offering that wish to them, offer it to yourself. May I be safe. May I be steady. May I live with peace even here. This is not surrender to injustice. It is refusal to let pain turn your heart into stone. And now let me say something even more direct. Your child's rejection does not cancel your worth. It does not rewrite your entire existence. It does not mean your life has failed. It does not mean the love you gave was meaningless. Human beings can reject what once nourished them. Human beings can forget. Human beings can protect themselves in ways that are harsh, immature, or final. Human beings can also change. But whether they change or not, your value cannot be handed over to their current opinion of you. If you do that, you will spend your last years begging another person to confirm that you deserve to exist. You do not need that permission. You are still here. Your breath is still here. Your capacity to learn is still here. Your ability to bless a room with gentleness is still here. Your power to become wiser than your wound is still here. And this may be the most important turning point of all. Stop asking only, will they ever come back? And begin asking, who am I becoming while they are gone? That is the question that protects the soul. Because time is moving, whether you heal or not. Seasons are changing, whether you sit by the phone or not. Your remaining life is becoming shorter, not longer. Please do not donate all of it to waiting. If one day your child returns, let them find someone real. Someone tender, yes, but not broken into performance. Someone who can say, without bitterness, I loved you then, I love you now, and I learned how to live even when you were away. That is a powerful thing. It leaves room for truth. It leaves room for an apology. It leaves room for new boundaries, if needed. It leaves room for a different kind of love, one not built on old illusions. And if they never return, then let your remaining years become a quiet masterpiece of inner freedom. Let be honest. Let your kindness deepen. Let your days be simple and awake. Let your heart stay open without staying exposed to the same blade. This too is a noble life. This too is worthy. This too is a form of victory. So tonight, do not chase. Do not beg. Do not build another message in your head. Sit down. Breathe. Feel the heartbreak without handing it the throne. Bow to what is true. Release what you cannot force. Guard the tenderness of your own heart. Live so fully, so calmly, and so truthfully that whether your child returns or not, you do not abandon yourself. That is the real turning point. That is the real strength. And that is how the one who walked away may someday realize what they lost. Not because you punished them, not because you made a scene, but because you became the kind of peace they can never forget.